Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you to this conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience. My name is Chrism, and we're just going to jump right in. Many of the experiences that a person will have within the Kundalini awakening context will differ from some of the fantastical types of descriptions that people will have with the Kundalini. Often people will just focus on the bliss, they'll focus on the ecstasy, they'll focus on the downloads of amazing information, they'll focus on the phenomena, they'll focus on seeing the colors and the entities and all of the different fantastic aspects of Kundalini phenomena, but they won't necessarily focus so much on the more difficult areas. And before I get going even further here, I'm going to ask Mary Jean or Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez if the voice is coming through clearly. Sometimes with Blog Talk Radio, there's technical glitches that can occur, and so I would ask Elizabeth or Mary Jean to type into the chat room whether or not the sound is coming through clearly. So, I see Elizabeth is typing. And looking forward to seeing. Sounds great. Thank you, Elizabeth, very much. Okay, yeah. Sometimes, amidst all of the amazing levels of Kundalini activity, people tend to be blindsided sometimes by the not so beautiful, the not so enjoyable aspects, and these. I was discussing with a student today. These just came out from me as being called spectrum teachings. So, spectrum teachings cover the whole level of what a person is going through at that time, from the moment that the Kundalini activates within them to the various phenomena that they're having to many of the various detoxifications and manifestations of clearing that a person has to go through. Much of this is extremely beautiful, very, very beautiful. It is, certainly after a person's spinal sweeps, but even before the spinal sweep occurs, the person is going through downloads of information, downloads of truth, and the level and strength of Kundalini downloads of truth is just flat out amazing. And it's a truth that goes beyond just the written word. There's an actual energetic component of inlaid, one might say, upon the words and upon how the words are phrased. So, for instance, the Kundalini will come through an individual and they will write down almost precisely what the Kundalini is downloading through them. And there is that energetic signature upon what they have written. And that will affect anyone and everyone who reads that information. But within the spectrum teachings cover the really, really good, the really, really beautiful, and the really, really hard, harsh, and not so beautiful aspects of how we come into layers of refinement by the Kundalini. A person can have their head, shoved into a pool of darkness, or they can have, some, shall we say, unfortunate entity interactions, or they can have pain in a certain part of their body, or they can have fear injected into them, so that it can begin to germinate levels of courage and levels of fearlessness. When we are in the corporeal position of a dual world, And with Kundalini, it's dual and non-dual at the same time. But for the physical body, for the physical awareness, the physical psychological awareness, or the ego awareness, the ego psychology, it's a dual world. It's a world of duality. In order to have light, well, one must have darkness too, or one is not able to understand through lack of the ability to compare. And so, as we have the good here within the five sense ego consciousness, well, so do we have the bad in almost an exact proportion to the amount of goodness that there is. And these spectrum teachings that's given by the Kundalini will dig up the layers of ego psychological blockage or ego psychological assumption, or many of the different areas of the ego that tend to get in the way of our enlightenment because it no longer serves the purpose that it once served. For instance, we know not to step out in front of the bus. We know not to jump off of the high cliff. We know not to put our hands on the hot stove. We already know that. That is given to us. We understand. And so those trepidations, those cautions, those fears don't necessarily come into play as we have the Kundalini, because the Kundalini, there are many, many different laws and understandings to the Kundalini that don't necessarily apply to the five sense psychology. Very important for a person to realize that, because constantly, you see people, latching on to their five sense psychology in order to make sense out of the Kundalini psychology, which is so much broader, more expansive, and more complete and more balanced than the five body or five sense human ego-based psychology. Very important to understand this. Very important to not only understand this, but if you have the Kundalini right now, it's very important that you begin to live that understanding. And a lot of people are just going to say, oh, geez, I just don't believe that. Oh, gosh, no, that's too painful. Don't want to go there. Not pretty, not glittery, not, little baby lambs jumping over rainbows, surrounded by cotton candy and ice cream cones. And it's, it isn't that way. It can be that way some of the time. For the most part, it's not going to be that way, folks. And you're just going to have to come to that realization. Okay, there are levels of detritus or levels of blockage within us that we don't need anymore, and that Kundalini will go straight to those levels of blockages and begin to loosen them up. And as they are loosened up, the psychology, the ego psychology, goes into a bit of a panic, and it goes into denial, and it goes into many areas of substitution, where it goes, well, maybe that's true, but I have this ideology, and I want to keep this ideology. I like this. I like my lambs jumping over rainbows, and I want to keep those lambs jumping over rainbows. But the Kundalini may just introduce a wolf into that little paradigm, and a wolf being a Kundalini creature, or a tiger, or something of that nature, and eat that little lamb. And that sounds terrible, and it is, just to some degree. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing to have to let go of the comfort levels that we have engineered so adroitly for ourselves through our life. It's not comfortable, and it can be quite frightening to have to trust the Kundalini, or to have to trust a teacher that the Kundalini has brought you to and who's giving you very, very challenging teachings. It's difficult to have to trust in these areas, but these are part of the spectrum teachings. You have to go to the extremes, and I've written about this in many different ways, but I'm kind of outlining it to you in a very compact, a very pure form right now. You must explore the beautiful areas, but also the extremely ugly areas. And this is all within you. This is within what the Kundalini wants to show you. There's always going to be beauty at one end and ugliness at the other end, or goodness at one end and not so good at the other end. And we have to explore these areas in order to expand them along the lines that the Kundalini expansion will give to us. And so if we're denying it, if we're denying that there's anything challenging, anything bad, anything that we have to deal with, any kind of an impurity that we have to kind of like purify, and if we're denying that, well, we form a blockage. When we form that blockage, the Kundalini is going to go into that blockage and either expand its teaching, i.e., expand the level of spectral teachings that you're receiving with that. So, if you're blocking some of the badness, well, the badness gets even worse. Okay, it gets even worse. And instead of maybe just being an ideological level of teaching, well, it's expanding into a physiological and ideological level of teaching. So as you block and block and block, well, so do you get pain and more pain and physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain. And these types of things they're not used to be cruel to you. They're not used for that at all. It's far more important that you begin to understand that a new life is opening up within you. New petals of awareness are opening up within you. And you don't get to rely on your old paradigm of ego psychology in order to manifest your way through this new multiverse that is opening up because of the Kundalini awakening within you or activating within you. So it's very, very, very important for you to understand this and then not get in your own way. Not get in the Kundalini's way. And, part of the spectral teaching is to understand that even that there is a force within you that is not owned by you. We grow up and we own this physical body. We own the blood, we own the bone, we own the hair, we own the skin, we own the organs, we own all of it. And yet we don't, because when the Kundalini awakens within us, it owns us. God and the divine aspects of who we are, how we are, why we are, begins to take ownership of us. And it only takes ownership of us to a degree that we are able to manifest change and understanding within the Kundalini awakening. It's not about ownership per se. It's about how a parent, how a mom or a dad would take the 2-year-old by the hand and teach them how to use that body, teach them how to use that mind, teach them how to have awareness, how to understand what having awareness is about, and how to make the proper choices in life. And when the child says, "No, mommy," or "No, daddy, I don't want to do this," the parents are going to apply many different levels of corrective measures in order to help that child comply with what it is to live in the physical world. Well, the Kundalini is doing the same thing with us in the Kunalini world, in the Kundalini manifestations of grace upon the body. And so it's very important for us not to get in our own way, not to be that spoiled little brat saying, "No, mommy, I want to put my hand on the hot stove." Because she just might let you. She just might let you. And the Kundalini just might let you. And there's, unless you need that kind of a teaching, it's good to understand that we will be expanded into the extreme ends of the spectrum, of the Kundalini spectrum, of what it is to have Kundalini in a lifetime. We will be expanded into that spectrum. And speaking of being expanded into a Kundalini spectrum, I would like to introduce my co-host, if she is here. There she is. Santara, Amelia Santara, would you like to come online in the red, in the Shakti red here? There we go. And hello to you in Ireland. Hi.
Thank you, Chrism. Good to be here.
Good to hear you too. You're kind of, your sound is a little challenged here, but I think we can make out your words. Are you on your laptop?
I am on laptop and from my phone, but I'm hearing myself. It's not good.
It's not bad. I can make out your words. Oh, you're hearing an echo? Okay. You're hearing an echo of yourself?
Yes, I can hear myself very much. It's weird.
Mm.
Yeah.
You just have to be sure not to interrupt yourself.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I wanted to introduce you, and I wanted to thank you publicly for being so gracious. The last time I was able to do this radio show, had a really, really, really strong influenza, I think, of some sort, anyway, and that was mixed in with some very difficult times around here with the suicide of a friend's wife and with the processing of the ayahuasca. So all mixed into one. And you were very, very kind, and everybody was very kind. And so I want to thank you, Amelia Santara, and Elizabeth, and Brooke, and Rosemary, and everybody who was here. So thank you all very much. And I see that Rosemary's here, and I see that Joey is here, and we've got a few new listeners here, and I see that Brooke is here. So hello, everyone, and thank you again for the last time we did that show. Amelia, do you have any announcements that you would like to make?
I do. I will begin. Now, I still have a little bit of a cough, guys. So, excuse me if it comes out. I want to give you the address. It's www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com. I just want to say something about donations, Chrism works selflessly for the benefit of others, and I know, he doesn't particularly like listening to this, but I really feel it's important to say it, that he gives of his time and his teachings for free so that people can come into a much better understanding of what is happening to them in relation to their Kundalini awakening process. So many of us have had our lives improved really dramatically through the teachings, through the safeties that we have come across through the work that Chrism does on the groups and in all the various ways that he does it. So I'm definitely one of the people who have been very much helped. And, there's a lot of people going through Kundalini syndrome that are going through really difficult processes and painful things, and they are able to contact Chrism basically at any time around the world because he makes himself available. So I just want to remind you again that, Chrism doesn't ask for payments for his teaching. He doesn't ask for payments for his Skype sessions or his phone calls or the Shakti Pat. And because he spends all his time guiding us and guiding those, who are in need of his teachings, he doesn't have outside employment, and he does rely on the donations that he receives, to pay the bills that all of us have that are living in this modern world. So again, I'd just like to say it's customary and maybe even traditional for people to offer some financial assistance with spiritual guide. So I'm just saying, if you are in a position to do this, well, then your donation would indeed be very helpful and would be deeply appreciated. So there's a few ways you can donate. I always give the blogspot address, which is chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com, and there is a donate button there. But Western Union is another method that is actually quite effective. And if you would like to do that, you can donate to any Western Union office in Santa Rosa, but you can drop me a line at my Facebook account or on kundalinimatters@gmail.com, and we can have a conversation about other ways that you can donate. So again, thank you all very much. And this is a little bit more than I typically do, but I felt it was time to maybe expand on the announcement. So thank you for your patience, Chrism, and everybody for listening. And I'll just give it to you again. It's kundalini.blogspot.com. And Chrism, I also have a few questions, not as many as I normally do, maybe 3 or 4 for whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you, Amelia. Thank you for making that announcement. And you're right. It is difficult to listen to, but it is part of the deal, I guess. The Sanskrit word for it is Siva, S-I-V-A, and in order to receive a service, sometimes in order to receive a service strongly, one must also give a service, and that giving of a service can come in many different ways. And so, I use as an example you and John, Amelia's husband and herself. They are the reason this show is existing. They are the reason that any and all of you are hearing this program, and that includes those of you who are listening to this in the future, in the archives. They are the reason that you are participating in this program, and whatever level of grace that is coming through me that may be affecting you is because John and Amelia have allowed that to occur, and so they are giving this Siva, this service, to you and to their Kundalini. And I am also giving that to you from my Kundalini, and so do what you feel you must do. And I think Amelia may have mentioned it's never you never have to buy a ticket to this show. You never have to pay anything. You don't have to donate anything at all. But if Siva is something that you understand, if service is something that you understand, then as she has mentioned, as Amelia mentioned, all donations are gratefully accepted, and they go to. Yeah, I'm here at this ashram. We've got holes in the ceiling. We've got a bad roof. We've got a lot of different things that need to be taken care of, and so we use that money in those ways. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who has given the donation. And I would name you here, but I'm not sure everybody wants to be named in that way, and so I have to be careful not to expose anybody. But I just want to say from all areas of my heart, thank you for the donations that are being given, and that have been given, and that will be given in the future. Thank you, everyone. And to continue with these spectral teachings, you must reach these extreme ends. And I know it's not always a pretty picture, especially if you're going into the extreme ends where it's much more challenging than as I mentioned earlier, the little lamb jumping over the rainbow. It can be very challenging. Think about this. Think about having to totally surrender yourself to an unseen force that you can't prove is real to anybody. Or having to surrender and give yourself completely to a teacher that unseen force has given you to teach you about these things. I mean, this is not easy. We in the West are not raised to understand what it is to have a guru, what it is to have a teacher. And even our teachers in the West, we are very, very much positioned for individualistic tendencies of living and expressing life through individuality rather than through surrendering to a force of divinity. And yet this is exactly what is occurring, and these are also part of the Spectrum teachings. You have to learn what it is to give of yourself, to surrender yourself, not just to the beauty and the joy and the happiness and the ecstasy and the bliss and the knowledge and the amazing phenomena, but also to the purification, also to the sublimation of the ego. And by that I just mean I never teach anyone to kill their ego or to get rid of their ego. I don't think that's possible anyway. The best you can do is control the ego, and you control the ego through practice and through hard work and through, self-programming yourself not to be taking the ego aspect or expression as literal or as fact anymore. It's very important that people do not buy in to the ego interpretation of what Kundalini is. Ego doesn't know what Kundalini is. Ego only knows what itself is, what its desires are, what its fears are, what its wants and needs, its fear of loss or want of gain. This is what the ego understands. And a lot of that has to do with pleasure, avoiding pain in order to encourage pleasure. And this is not always, what is being cooked up by the Kundalini within you. You need to understand that surrendering to a divine force is a necessity. When that divine force is awakened at the base of your spine and is sending itself up your spine, out the top of your head, well, it's time to surrender to that divine force, folks. Time to surrender to that. Time to trust that. As you know, we just came back from Peru about 3 weeks ago. I think it's about 3 weeks, maybe a month. It's hard for me to tell. So much has been occurring here since then. What has it been, Amelia? How long has it been?
Oh my goodness, Chrism, I don't know. When did we come back? We left over there on the 27th, and we returned to the 27th. So the end of February.
So it hasn't even been a month yet, then, really.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Amazing, isn't it?
Amazing.
Okay.
Oh wow. So not even a month, and we had 4 ayahuasca ceremonies close together, and almost everybody that did these ceremonies was already Kundalini awakened, and that was the big experiment. What happens when people that already have the Kundalini going go down to Peru and experience the ayahuasca? Well, you experience different levels of spectrum teachings. She takes you into the extreme, and I'm going to come over here. I see Joey's online, and I'm going to ask Joey. Joey, you there?
Yes.
Hey, Joey, did you feel during your ayahuasca experience that you were taken into extreme levels?
For me, it was a physical level. And,
physical
yes,
extreme.
Yes, it was extreme.
Yeah. And you started having kriyas as well, did you not?
Yes. That's what I mean by physical.
Yeah. And this interesting, that we spoke about this a little bit at the Minnesota Kundalini community meeting the other day. We spoke about the extreme altitude and the extreme dieta, which the diet that we were adopting, and then the extreme levels of how we were taking the ayahuasca and the small amount of programming opportunity between the different ceremonies. And how has that affected you since you've come home, my dear?
I have had a weakness that has clung on, and I think it's part of the ayahuasca experience.
The processing of
it? Yes. But I feel much closer to my Kundalini, to my Shakti than before.
Well, that's great, then. That's great, and I want to thank you for your participation, coming all the way down there, being 83 years old, coming down, flying thousands of miles into the Peruvian Andes, hanging out with us at 9,000 feet, extreme spectrum teachings there, participating in the ayahuasca, participating in the Wachuma, and coming home and being able to tell the tale. Nicely done.
and also experiencing the beauty of that country.
Absolutely.
That was really, it was just an unusual experience.
And dunking your head in the river, no less.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Joey. Thank you, and I'm going to put you back in the blue here. So this whole ayahuasca thing was an extreme level of spectrum teachings. We were taken to the extremes of how we processed oxygen through our body. We were taken into the extreme poverty of the little town of Ture, Peru. We were taken into the extremes of divine oneness. At least I can speak for myself on this, and I think it was very, 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 very important to understand that, we had the Kundalini coming in. We had the Kundalini already coming in, and what happened to me during that ayahuasca experience was a direct, conscious. How do I say it? I was never disconnected from Kundalini for a single moment, but the ayahuasca opened the doorway even wider than it already had been opened for 26 years. And I saw so much, and I was given so much information. And I was, in many ways, I was complimented for doing the work of the Kundalini that I'm doing here right now. And so it gave me tremendous levels of validation for the work that was being done. And it also, and I think it had that way for other people too, like I'm going to mention Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, who came into a very, very, very strong communication with one of the forms that the Kundalini takes, and that would be Laranya. And I see Elizabeth, you're there on the chat group there, and if you feel like calling in, I think people might like to hear about the relationship that you had with Laranya. If we didn't discuss that last time, I don't remember too much from that last program that was only for an hour because of the level of illness that I was that the Kundalini allowed me to have more spectral teachings there. And so I just want you to understand that even though the joy and the bliss and the love is extreme, so can the challenges that accompany the other end of those spectrums be just as extreme and just as important for a person to experience. So if you're inside of the Kundalini right now, and it's giving you challenges, it's forcing you to surrender to phenomena that you're not comfortable with, like kriyas or entities or flashes of light or starbursts coming at you and swirling around you, or the glistening, or the communication with animals and and all the beautiful things will also be prepared to experience some of the not so beautiful things, some of the more challenging things, and it's good to see Manisha. It's good to see you on there too, Manisha. I'm happy you got your PC working. It's good to see you here. She's on the chat room here, and I just wanted to respond to her. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, if you have the Kundalini now and you are being challenged by it, well, you welcome those challenges. If you are being asked to surrender yourself to an unseen force, well, first of all, I want you to make sure that it's the Kundalini in the first place, because sometimes entities can try to slip in there, and as they try to slip in there, well, a person can have some problems with that. So you make sure that you're having at least 4 to 5 very clear symptoms of Kundalini, and that can be kriyas, which are automatic body positionings. That can be hearing celestial music. That can be seeing lights that other people don't see, or hearing sounds that other people don't hear. That can be having extreme levels of bliss that nobody else is experiencing, and for no reason other than itself. So make sure that you're having the Kundalini phenomena first. That's the very first thing. Once you ascertain that is happening, then you begin to surrender to it, or you surrender to a teacher that you've been assigned to, and it will give you a teacher. I mean, I've had people email me that the Kundalini came to them in their dreams, and the Kundalini was commanding them to I see you, Centaur, and I see Elizabeth there. Thank you. Commanding them to have Chrism as a teacher, and it's very important that you follow that guidance. You do not resist it. I know that for people in the West, it's a very difficult thing to have a corporeal flesh teacher that's in in the paradigm of the mystical or the pseudo religious, which I always say that religion ends, Kundalini begins. I mean, Kundalini is the direct implication and importation of the divine upon the human system, and that is a very, very different world. And there are no religions that teach this, unfortunately. In this level of terrestrial experience, there are no religions that are really teaching us clear, concise understandings of Kundalini upon the body, and certainly upon the Western-oriented individual's body. And so this is why it is so beneficial that John and Amelia put this show on. And I want to say thank you to them once again. And as I mentioned before, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez came down to Peru, but even before she came to Peru, she was in a very strong relationship with her Kundalini. And Elizabeth, welcome to the program, Elizabeth.
Hi, thank you.
Hello. And
Hello.
some of you've had a fairly strong spiritual seeker background even before the Kundalini came up. Is that right?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
you were following Kabbalah. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, and even before that, just even as a child, I had a lot of phenomenon and things. I just never knew what it was, until I found this group and finally figured out that there were other people that have similar experiences and found out that it was a Kundalini. And, I didn't have my first spinal sweep till 2005, so but I always think I had a level of merging, but just never knew what to call it, and never knew, people would always say things to me in regard to, you have this sort of radiance or you have this sort of light. I just never knew what they meant or what that was, or that it was that I was different, but I knew I was different all at the same time.
Understood. And this is a very common phenomenon with Kundalini people, or people that are going to be having the awakening later on in their life. And as you went down to, actually, even before you went down to Peru, you were visited by the sacred spider, were you not?
Yes. And it just got stronger and stronger from the time you had told me, oh, by the way, you're going to Peru. And I went, what? And then 9 months later, when it actually happened, I had a few sleepless weeks where I would have waking visions. And first I had the ones where I was taken into the Amazon jungle, and the jumping spider attached to my hand and bit me. And I looked it up online, and it was the Amazonian jumping spider. I went, but I printed out her picture and put her in my altar room and, in my meditation room. And so she was always there on the wall, and I felt a connection to her. And then getting closer to when we left, I was having just really vivid dreams where she was attaching herself to my body and moving up my body, but I was not in the dream aware that I was Kundalini person or awakened or anything. I just would startled, try to pull her off. But I remember in the last dream that I had, she very slowly moved away from my vision in the dream, and she was just right up there against my neck. As she turned and left, it was just such a feeling of divinity. And even in the dream where I didn't know what was going on, it was such a feeling. And then when I woke up, I was just, okay, there she is again,
Did you have levels of resistance to this at all?
Not anymore, not after the ayahuasca, but I certainly, in the dreams leading up, I still had resistance in that I was trying to pull it off. I was afraid of it. Now it's completely changed. I am actually, for the first time, aware and conscious in dreams. I know immediately who she is, what she's doing there. I don't know what she's going to tell me, but it's always something different. And she comes now sometimes right when I fall asleep or before waking. I'll have, between devotion at 3 or whatever, and then when I go back to sleep and wake up again in the morning at 7, then she'll be just downloading just all kinds of stuff. And I even know in the dream that it's her, and she's telling me things. And when I wake up, I actually remember what she said. So that's completely new.
And you're also having the ability to converse with wildlife. Is that not true?
Yes. And I sort of always have, but not to this extent, not to this level at all.
Right. And I have witnessed this, ladies and gentlemen. When I went up and did Kundalini at the castle that Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, she put on that seminar at the Manresa Castle in Port Townsend, Washington, at her home, in her backyard at her home, an actual conversation was taking place between Elizabeth and a robin that was nesting up in a tree, and it was a very interesting conversation to listen to and to participate in kind of an audience sort of way. And so when you were down there and you were having the ayahuasca experience, Elizabeth, did you experience some of these spectral teachings that I'm talking about?
Yes, and it just opened up in each. I think it started with La Rana around, I think it was the second or third ceremony. Might even have been the third. No, I think it was the second. But anyway, she came, she was right there, and then after that, even just in devotion or meditation, or when we would, have alone time processing the day after, all I need to do is close my eyes, and she's just right there, which is new. That's never occurred before.
And how else were some of these spectral teachings given to you? Mention some of the good and mention some of the challenging.
Well, I was affected more on an emotional level. Joy was talking about physical, and I had some physical, for the first time, some physical Kriya stuff, spider stuff going on. But for me, the whole experience, I was given so many teachings through the emotional body, through the heart, through just heart expansion. But along with that comes, a lot of upheaval of pain from my past, from my childhood, not just healing things, but having to take a look at things that I have, thought that I've dealt with that I don't really want to look at. It's like, no, here you go. You're going to look at it. You're going to feel it. And even, it's a little bit of fear testing along with that. Just, I'm still having that along with the processing these last few weeks. I don't know, it's just bringing up, and I'm feeling every little thing, and it's hard, it's hard to have an emotional response and have to emotionally, as well as every other way, to feel it is hard, and it's, in a way, it's like the bliss is way more, but also the pain is stronger.
And I think this is actually a fairly clear and common experience that people can have just with the Kundalini itself. You don't need to add in the ayahuasca. The Kundalini will amplify these areas all by itself. But when we went down and did the ayahuasca, well, it was amplified 100 times more. Would you agree?
Yes. Yes.
This is what everybody's still processing right now. I think, Amelia and I just spoke. It's been just like a few weeks, really. And here we are, and we're in the middle of the continuous processing that is happening because of the ayahuasca. And Elizabeth, I just want to thank you for coming on the program. And I'd like to give you an opportunity to add anything that you would like to add about your Kundalini or the experience that you've had with La Rana. La Rana is Spanish for the spider. And anything that she might want to say to the people right now through you. Take a moment.
Okay.
Take a moment and everybody, this is a real thing. Nobody's making any of this up. This is true Kundalini phenomena. And Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez has the Kundalini, and she has the phenomena, as does Amelia and as does Joey. I think Joey is still having Kriyas, and Rosemary and Brooke, and everybody is still processing through these spectral teachings. And Elizabeth, you feel free to interrupt me at any time. Go ahead.
She's just saying, while you were saying that, she's just saying, we can't be afraid to look at these dark places within ourselves. We can't be afraid to look at these emotions and to truly feel them, not just skim over them, but with the Kundalini, we need to be able to go deep into these areas and really take a look in order to shed light on them and make them conscious, and then be able to actually deal with them rather than pushing them down further into the dark so that we never deal with that and we're left with that to deal with after we pass, during transition, when we come back, all of that. Making things, putting a light, shining a light, difficult for our personalities, our egos to do that, and that's okay, and we should give ourselves permission that that's okay and forgive ourselves for that, but keep pushing. Always keep pushing that.
Understood.
And she's always going to keep pushing that with me. Yay.
Well, it's so true. It is so true. And we have to look into these shadow areas. And just by looking in them, we begin to work through them. And I just want to say thank you very much, Elizabeth, for coming on the program. And thank you, Laranya, for coming on the program and giving such valuable teachings within the context of the spectrum of the many teachings that Kundalini has to give. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, and thank you for all that you do.
And so there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and her increased and her amazing level of communication with the sacred Kundalini as it comes through her into the format of a spider or what we're calling Laranya. So thank you once again, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez. And so there we have it, folks. This is really important work. You do not want to turn away or run away from trusting the Kundalini or trusting the teacher the Kundalini has given you. You do not want to turn away or run away from having to do this surrender work. You need to be very, very, very astute in self-observation and how you are acting throughout your day, how you are not surrendering or how you're resisting the surrendering. You need to really begin to look at trust, how you're not trusting it, or maybe you're only trusting in certain areas. It's very important for you to understand that you need to give yourself completely into this process. You don't get to just give a fingernail and say, oh, I'm doing it. You got to give the finger that it's attached to, and the hand, and the arm, and the torso, and the legs, and the mind, and the brain, and the spirit, the soul. You've got to give 100% into this, and you will receive 100% out of this. And I know that a lot of you that have had this come onto you where you weren't seeking it, where you go, well, I don't want 100% of this. I get that. I get you. I understand that is the case. Well, you know what? Even though you weren't seeking it, this is not going to go away. And it's there for a reason. And if you're listening to this program, you know that it is a conscious force of divinity within you. And you are just resisting that control that it may be bringing onto you. You want to be in control all the time, and you're just not going to get to be. You don't get to have divine power and divine understanding without having divine refinement at the same time. It's very important that people understand this. And for those of you that are seeking this, well, this comes much easier to you because you are allowing, you are giving yourself into this program. But you need to understand that the level of gifting that is occurring within this program is not easy. It is not easy. It is, just think of yourself like Joey was. She's 83 years old, and she's at 9,000 feet altitude in the Peruvian Andes, having to walk up hills and down hills, and having to participate in a very, very strict diet, which does not allow a lot of energy forming substances like we're used to consuming here in the West. And she's up there and she's doing this work. She's doing this Kundalini work. She is going for it. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to use her example and go for it. Do not hesitate. Do not be afraid. You have everything to gain and a lot to lose. And the things that you have to lose are those things that are blocking you from understanding. It's like fear. You have fear to lose. You have fear of loss. And this is fear of loss of material items like chairs or rugs or cars or material items in your life that you become so fixated on that gosh, if you lose one, it's like losing a child, for crying out loud. You need to release some of these things. And most of us here in the West, even I myself, I've got an old black Nissan out there that I can't drive, that I don't have paperwork to, and I need to get rid of it. And even though I've been using it for storage, I still need to get rid of it. I need to clean up the living, clean up the life, and I'm going to encourage you to do the same. You don't get to fixate so much on material items because they're Maya. They're an illusion of ownership. It all belongs to this world. It all belongs to the Kundalini. None of it belongs to us. We just get to use it for a little while. It's all going to get destroyed. It's all going to fall into dust, just like us. So, be open to losing this fear of not having possessions. Be open to allowing yourself to trust the Kundalini and to trust the Kundalini completely. She may have given you the ways and the means to survive up to this point, but you need to honor that ways and those means by applying the strongest levels of trust that you can apply. And that means the trust of whether you live or whether you die, and when or if that will occur. You trust the Kundalini. This is what happens to me. I live off of these donations, and that's what puts food on my table. And that's what patches the ceiling here in this ashram, even though the ceiling hasn't been patched yet. I mean, when I get enough to have that fixed, then we will do that. But the scenario is you've got to trust this force within you. The more you trust, the greater things happen to you. The more the beauty, the more the joy, the more the understanding, the more the information. And as I've said before, information is power within the Kundalini context. It is a strength. But in order to get that information, you have to trust the source that is giving you that information. And this would be the Kundalini. First, the Kundalini in you. Second, the Kundalini where she directs you to take information. Okay. Very important that you trust and surrender to this. And remember, when I say surrender, I'm not talking about you rolling over and have an enemy pointing a sword at your breast. I'm not talking about that kind of surrender. I'm talking about the surrender of the control of your life, which is even harder. And you've got to remember that Kundalini is a friendly parental force. It is not out there to hurt you. It is out there to clean you up, to change the diaper that the ego has soiled. And don't resist that change. Don't resist that cleaning up, that detoxification of all the things that life has soiled you with. The ego and its interpretation of life has soiled you with. Really begin to understand how important it is to follow the instructions the Kundalini is giving you. And these are not instructions that will be given in a book. Sometimes it is. These are not typically instructions that you'll understand right off the bat. These are compelling. You'll be compelled to do certain things. And you'll think that, oh, well, I thought it through, and I thought, well, I got to do this or I've got to do that. Well, it's not you that's thinking it through. It's the Kundalini that is compelling you to think it through. And so you need to start making room in your life for these teachings of a spectral nature, a spectrum nature. If the five sense ego embossed personality and life is, let's just say that spectrum is 1 inch across from the right to the left. It's 1 inch across. Well, Kundalini is expanding that to 1,000,000 miles across. And you're going to have to go there. Not all at once, but you're going to have to go there eventually. And it's just like like what Laranya said through Elizabeth just now. You're going to have to deal with it. And it's best for you to deal with it now and work with it now. Learn from it now rather than when you pass away. Because I got news for you, folks. When you pass away, you don't have a physical body to work through this with. You have to get in line and get another physical body and then continue to work that way. Why not do as much of the work as you possibly can do right now? Maybe you won't have to have another physical body. Maybe you will have enlightenment in this lifetime, right now, through the Kundalini in you, right now, as you pay attention, as you surrender, and as you trust. Right now. Right now, ladies and gentlemen. That goes for you who are listening in the archives, you future people. The same thing applies to you right now. You don't have a second to waste. You don't have time to waste. You don't have time to just go, well, I don't know. I just like, gosh, I like my little lamb jumping over the rainbow and those cotton candy and the ice cream cones. I really like that, even though it's full of high fructose corn syrup. But hey, I was raised on that here in the West. You don't have time to do that, folks. God has come calling you. God's hand is on your shoulder, and you do not shove God's hand off your shoulder because you're looking at cotton candy or ice cream cones or little lammies jumping over the rainbow. It's time for you to get to work. You've lived enough life. You've lived enough of a corporeal flesh existence. It's time for you to get to work on enlightening that flesh, becoming that semi-divine person that you are supposed to become, or this wouldn't be happening to you. That includes all of you in the chat room right now. That includes all of you on the phone lines right now. That includes all of you that are listening on the computer right now. That includes every single of the almost 11,000 people on the Kundalini Awakening exclamation group, or the almost 5,000 people on Kundalini Awakening Systems 2 group, or the 1,800 people on Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 Yahoo. And I'm giving you these groups so that you can go there, you can join up, you can listen, you can learn, and you can become the enlightened soul that you are meant to become. But you got to get the Kundalini first. And once you get the Kundalini, you've got to trust it and obey it and follow its guidance in your life. You might want to look at some of the Greek mythology. Let's just take Hercules, son of Zeus, okay? A son of Hera and Zeus coming together, I think. He listened to the advice that divinity gave him, and he went out and solved those tasks that he had because divinity was telling him that he had to do it, and he trusted that, and he went out and did that. And you are no less than Hercules. You are just the same. You are a son or a daughter of the divine right now, where you sit or stand. You are a son or a daughter of the divine, and it's time for you to start acting like one. You don't get to be this little human infant that is saying, no, 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 I want it my way all the time, no matter what, my way or the highway. You don't get to do that. You don't get to waste a moment of time on this world. The imperative is with you now. The imperative to obey the Kundalini, to trust the Kundalini, and any or all levels of interaction that the Kundalini has you do with people, with teachers, with life in general, with the environment. Let's go back to Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez and her ability to speak with the animals. Well, let's go to other people and your ability to have care and concern for the animals and the environment. Somebody gave me a text today that turtles have feelings. Well, you darn right they do. All life, all creatures on this world have feelings and have consciousness. They may not have the same way that humanity does, but it doesn't mean that it's any less. And in many cases, it can be much more. Let's just look at the dolphins or the orcas or things, levels of that nature. So surrender yourself to the Kundalini. Trust the Kundalini. Give yourself continuously, without stop, to this divine force within, the divine force that is sculpting your life, the divine force that is having you move from point A to point B, the divine force that is saying, oh, hey, spring cleaning, let's do it. The divine force that is having that spring cleaning happen inside of your consciousness, inside of your psychology. These are the spectrum teachings. No longer need you suffer from the shadows of the past. But as Laranya said through Elizabeth, you need to go there. You need to look into these shadow areas. You need to bring the light of your consciousness, the light of your forgiveness, the light of your gratitude to grace into these forgotten shadow areas that still have a direct effect upon your life. You need to do this, folks. It's extremely important that you understand that the Kundalini is going to take you there over and over and over again until you do. So learn and discern that learning and bring into an active expression in your life a severe trust in the Kundalini, a severe surrender to the guidance that the Kundalini has to give you. And you will not be disappointed. You will be empowered. You will be enriched. You will gain levels and access into the divine, the heavenly fields that you have no idea how beautiful it is. I learned this once again. My 26-year-old awakening was expanded through the ayahuasca, and I saw the heavenly fields. I was given into the divine grace over and over and over and over, and I am still processing a lot of this. She knocked me out on 2 occasions. I was just unconscious, gone for a matter of minutes, but it was a fact. So I'm going to bring Rosemary online here. Hello, Rosemary.
Hello there, Chrism.
Tell me a little bit about your experiences, what you've had up to date with regards to the ayahuasca and what is continuing within a processing level of spectrum teachings for you.
I thank you, first of all, for everything you've just said. It really is good to hear your voice and to hear those words. That's a way of lining up inside things that get a little scrambled. I remember when I came home here, and it was midnight, so that there wasn't much going on, but when I stepped into the house, it was like I was home, but I wasn't home. And I just took care of things in the next day, and like it was me, but it wasn't me. So it's kind of interesting to see changes that you don't know are happening, and that are making a contribution somehow to what Kundalini wants for me. And that has been there pretty much off and on in little ways. And I was very touched by the people of Peru and their poverty and the commitment of Alonza and his family to restoring to the people of Peru their natural heritage and the strength of their spiritual beings. So all of that was, I've never been out of the country before. So as old as I am, it was never happened. So it was a wonderful experience. And also being with there were 15 of us, and sometimes 15 others there in our ceremonies. But to have the focus on our time and everything served the times that we were there in the temple. And I remember the variety of experiences that I had there. I'm newer to this experience of Kundalini in the last couple years, and not longer than that. So it's it seems slower
I
to me.
I noticed an increase in your kriyas.
Yes.
Is that still happening with you?
Yes, that I've had the basics of that for a couple years, but it's there. I thank you for that question because I have a fuller sense of Kundalini's presence. I think Elizabeth mentioned that in that way, that it's stronger, and I'm grateful. I said before I would go back. It really is an unusual experience that it can enhance the presence of Kundalini in us and hasten those things. So that was there, yes, and responding to Alonza in the energy that he was sending us through his music. I have that DVD or CD, as a number of people do, and it is a privilege to be continued like I am as well with your music.
Now, we have a group there called Ayahuasca Peru Kundalini on Facebook, and there's some examples of the music there for people to participate with. These were played during the ceremony, and Rosemary, I would like to thank you for your participation and for your grace. Grace under pressure, too. I know I made it a very pressurized scenario for you. I kind of forced some spectrum teachings on you, and I want to congratulate you on how you handled that and how the other people around who observed that were able to handle that, too. So nice going, my dear. Nice going. And I'm going to go ahead and put you in the blue again, and nice going, Rosemary. And bringing Santara online here. Hello, Santara.
Hi, Chrism.
And I want to thank you for your participation in Peru. You were a very, very active force, and you had some very strong phenomena as well. If you'd like to go into it as they pertain to spectrum teachings, please feel free.
Okay, I suppose I've said something about these already. I mean, I had a lot of missing phenomena, but also...
What are you processing right now? What are you processing right now that you haven't spoken of?
Well, I mean, the thing is, some of the challenges were very extreme. I feel that I wasn't so much aware at the time that I was I was so touched by reality. I was also stripped bare in many ways. I was raw. It's a hard one to put words on. In many ways, I felt alone, and yet I think I was with people that I loved, so I wasn't alone. But it was that I was alone with Kundalini. I mean, after the ayahuasca, even more so than before, she really possessed me, Chrism, and occupied me and my thoughts and my feelings. And, she was showing me and still is showing me patterns in my behavior. And she's opened the eyes in my heart. I'm seeing things. I'm beginning to see things with clarity. But I was very raw. I mean, it's a little bit like what Rosemary said. I mean, it's very like what Rosemary said. I really wasn't me. I felt detached from me in lots and lots of ways. And one of the things that has really developed for me is...
What were some of the more challenging areas? More of the, say, getting closer to the outside edge of a spectrum. What was going on with that?
Oh, Chrism, I can't really speak about it much, to be honest with you. A lot of it is very, very personal and very, very deep in me. Some of it connected into past things, some of my own patterns, some of the things that I haven't been able to look at before, that I would have been blinded to, or that I would have refused, not so much consciously, but I wasn't. Lately, she's telling me that I'm to open my eyes and to look and to really look at myself, and I have been doing that. And the trust that I would have had before for all the things that Kundalini has done. What you were speaking about, that has really become very, very strong. I mean, I was extremely sick as well when we came back from Peru, and to trust that everything that was happening to me was being allowed by the Kundalini. You know, the hard and difficult things, the shadow stuff that Elizabeth talked about, surrendering in a positive and trusting way into all of that, you know, the detoxing. I mean, that has been amazing, and, you know, loving, really beginning to completely love everything that is being done with me, even the hard stuff. I know I'm not being very specific about the hard stuff, but I just can't.
That's okay. You're doing fine. You're fine. And let's go ahead and let's migrate a little bit on over to any of the questions that people may have.
Yeah, can you say a little bit about, you know, feeling like you don't belong? Because that was the title that was given to the to today's radio show. And I suppose I was thinking earlier, you know,
the radio show's been titled already? Seriously?
Well, I didn't do it. You did it, I'm assuming.
Did I?
The title of the show was Feeling Like You Don't Belong.
Of this show right now?
That didn't happen by itself.
That's weird. I don't recall doing that at all, because, you know, I hardly ever do that. Well, here we go. Well, the feeling like you don't belong is definitely it's the merge of the divine with the mundane. I mean, that's a fairly common. It's a fairly common Kundalini trait. And sure, yeah, I'll go into that. When part of you is divine and part of you is still mundane, it's very, very difficult for a person to feel like they belong. Very, very difficult to feel like all is well inside my head. And so, when the Kundalini comes, a person very often can feel as if something's not right. Something's not normal with me. I don't feel like I belong to my family. I don't feel like I belong to my friends. I don't feel like I belong at my job. I don't feel like I belong on this world at all. And this is just the beginning of an invitation for people to begin to merge consciously into the divine, to consciously come into an understanding that, yes, you are not the same person you were before. You now have an expressive divine component to your life. And this expressive divine component, which we know of as the Kundalini, is pushing the individual, pushing yourself to expand into a larger body of expression, a larger understanding of a body of information that is coming from that expression. You are being pushed to expand, to fill up a greater level of presence upon this world and within the physical construct of your body than you ever have done before. And this is like with Elizabeth and the sacred Laranya is saying to her, yes, I'm going to keep pushing you to expand, keep pushing you into these areas of shadow understanding so that you are no longer anchored or held back by the lack of understanding or the implication of fear upon the physical systems. And so you won't feel like you belong the same way you always have, but in a greater context, you belong into a greater understanding that is occurring. But this lack of feeling like you belong, it scares people, it frightens people. They have a hard time coming to grips with it because they don't have the level of information, because our society does not support the Kundalini, and so therefore Kundalini understandings are not within a truthful pattern in our society. We have too many people that are trying to make money off of Kundalinis saying that they're Kundalini awakened when they're not, when they're just harvesting information off of the internet, then trying to pass themselves off as a teacher or things of this nature. People are just trying to make money. And this is one of the reasons why I'm not allowed to charge for the truth. You can't. Truth does not have a price. Divinity does not have a price. It is priceless. And so, yes, you may not feel like you belong the same way you have before, but you do belong. You just belong in an expanded way. And the sooner you get rid of your fear, and the sooner that you stop allowing fear to control your trust or to control your level of understanding of what life is on this world, the sooner you're no longer bound by those handcuffs, the greater your level of expansion will be, and the greater level of expansion that comes gives you a greater level of freedom and a greater level of understanding through that freedom that you are indeed part of an ever-expanding blossoming of humanity upon this world. You are part of that blossoming. And that blossoming is very different. The flower knows itself as a plant before it knows itself as a flower. You, before the Kundalini has awakened with you, you knew yourself as a plant, with leaves, but not with a bloom. Now you know yourself as a bloom, and you are still that plant, but you're also that bloom, that heavenly bloom upon the stem of humanity, on the stem of the human body. The top of your head is that heavenly bloom, and that's what you feel when you have the Kundalini coming up. And so you do belong, you just don't belong in the exact same way. You have gone further, and you are going further through the Kundalini blossom that is happening to you. So trust the Kundalini. Trust your body. Your body knows the Kundalini. It's only your ego that doesn't really know what's going on. Don't let your life be controlled by the lack of information that the ego has. Allow yourself to be controlled by the divine blossom that you are becoming. And I'm going to come back to Santara here. Hopefully you finished coughing. I know the feeling, believe me. Ask your next question.
It's not good. Thank you very much, Chrism, indeed, for that. Actually, I'm just thinking, before my activation, when I was much younger, as a child even, I often felt I didn't belong. I really felt that separation. But since my awakening, and particularly since I came into the information from my Kundalini and from your teachings, I really feel I belong now to that divine force within me. That union that has happened, I belong to that. And it's an amazing way to be, isn't it? It's very beautiful. I love it.
Very beautiful. Very beautiful.
Okay. My first question is, it's something that somebody wrote into me, so there's a couple of sentences in it, Chrism. In 1987, I sat down to meditate for the first time. I'd never done any meditation, and all I knew was that you sat cross-legged and breathed gently. I put on Mike Oldfield, and before I reached the end of side one, I could hear all of my chakras on the and I actually heard the sound of padlocks opening one by one. Then I experienced what I felt was a shoot of white light rising from out of the top of my head. Was that a Kundalini awakening of some kind?
It's possible. But, this person doesn't go into what was happening, at the first chakra or the second chakra, or, what was happening with the tailbone or what other phenomena they were having. I mean, I think, 2 or 3 phenomena are listed there, Santara?
Well, yeah, I mean, they don't expand, but just say that it happened a long time ago. I mean, it happened in 1987. And also, they heard the chakras unlocking and they experienced white light coming out of their head. But they don't mention anything else. And it's a man, and I don't really know anything further.
It's an assumption. I mean, it's hard to describe a lot of these Kundalini phenomena, like saying the chakras were unlocked. Well, I don't know that my chakras were ever locked up. So I think that's just probably more language than anything else. I would want more information from this individual, first of all, before I were to make anything. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm looking at a no, only because, well, I'm just not seeing the individual lit up. Not saying that an activation didn't occur, but certainly not an awakening.
Okay. Thanks, Chrism.
Yeah.
The next question, it's a dream. This is from a man, and this is a person who has Kundalini awakened. Yesterday I saw in a dream a large hall. A man, woman, and child were in the room. King Cobra appeared and started biting the family. They were very patient, but I panicked. Is this Kundalini related, and what is the meaning? I ran away due to fear.
Yeah, that is Kundalini related for sure. That family and the family of the individual that dreamed this may start to have Kundalini phenomena. And it's important not to be afraid of the serpents in dreams. That's not to say that in the waking life that you're going to go out and give a big wet kiss to a king cobra that can grow to 18 feet and one of the most venomous snakes in the world. But in the dream life, you do as the family did. You're very patient, and you let the bites occur, and these are activation sequences. Kundalini is biting that family, letting that person who is observing know that the Kundalini will come to an entire family at the same time. I see this quite a bit. And it is a truth. The Kundalini does come to family units rather than just an individual in the family. I was speaking to another person yesterday on Skype, I've known of this person for about a year now, and since I last spoke to him, his wife had become activated, and a child had become activated from his activation. So to see the King Cobra, which is a sign, which is one of the Naga, one of the Naga lords, in the Sanskriti understandings or Sanatana understandings, Hindu understandings, to see that occurring in the dream life is a very, very strong indication towards Kundalini awakening for that family unit and for that individual. And they need to work on their fear. And I believe we have a caller down there if you'd like to investigate that.
I will, Chrism. I think it's a person that was on earlier that was just listening, though, and did not have a question that got bumped off. But I can go check it out. It's the same number, I think. Right. I have another, and I'll do that after I ask you this one. Again, It's somebody writing. This is a woman who has Kundalini activated on, not sure if she's had a spinal sweep or not. She says, I was wondering, is it possible at all to sense the pure energy of another being without this energy going through one's own energy? I mean, I sense and feel my energy. I tune into it. And then I touch somebody else and tune into this being. What I sense is what my energy is picking up, that there is a filter, is there, and an ego component, often interpretation knowingly or not. When I tune into my energy system, I still have difficulty sensing what is Kundalini and what is mine. When I feel a pressure at the base of my spine, then I know it is Kundalini, but otherwise, I guess there is always a filter, unless you're enlightened or have some siddhi. Of course, one can also discuss what is my own energy, also from the source, I guess, or are there energy systems strictly human? I know people speak of Reiki energy and Chi energy, and then there is Kundalini, which obviously stands out. So again, I'm wondering, is it possible at all to sense the pure energy of another being without this energy going through one's own energy?
Wow, that's a confusing question.
Yeah. Well, I'm reading it. I'm reading it straight.
None of it.
My computer just died. I've lost the studio Chrism.
I can still hear you.
I've lost.
I hear you, my dear.
I can hear you, but I have no visuals now, Chrism.
Okay,
so you have to put me in the red.
Yeah. Okay. No, not a worry. I'm just going to leave you there. I'll put you in the blue if you cough. Okay.
The blue. I mean, thank you.
Yeah. You know, none of the energy is hers. Once Kundalini comes up, it co-opts all other energetic systems within the body. So you don't own anything anymore. Okay, and that's just kind of an interpretation of her ego that's kind of stepping in there and trying to take ownership of energetic fields and whatnot. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible to feel another person's energetic field. She gets into these purity issues, and I think it's the impurity of her own interpretation that is clouding that for her. I'm not going to get it. I won't even comment to the silliness that is Reiki energy. Yeah. So. Yeah, I would just have to. You know, it's a convoluted question. She's making more of a statement than asking a question, or she's just combining the two. But yeah, it's possible. You know, if she were more adroit at just asking the question and waiting for an answer, that would be better. But it's possible to feel those energetics without a filter. But the filtration is caused by the Kundalini, and if the Kundalini wants that filter in place, well, guess what? That filter is going to be in place. Yeah, and it's just, I'll go ahead and ask the next question. Hopefully it's a better question.
It's a very short question from the group. Is there such a thing as a beneficial entity attachment?
Oh, no, not at all. The good entities will not attach to you. They know that the Kundalini is working with you. They know that you're going to go through some changes. They understand. They take a step back. They watch. They observe. They allow the Kundalini itself, the conscious divine itself, to help you. Another entity that is not so good will either parasitize you, basically become a parasite upon you, or they will try to actively direct you or corrupt your Kundalini awakening system, and so any kind of a possession is not a positive thing. Those, as I mentioned, the responsible entities, they won't try to attach to you. They won't try to steer you this way or that. That's the job of the Kundalini. And they know that. Okay, they know that. The less, let's just say the more challenging type of entity possession is where the entity just tries to control you. And it will try to control you as a way of initiating its will upon you. Rather than your will being honored, it is the will of the entity that tries to corrupt your Kundalini. This happens quite often, and so one of the main ways you get out of this is by not doing anything that entity suggests that it do. And it will tell you everything. It will say it's God, it will say it's Jesus, it's Mary, it's Buddha, it's Allah, it's whoever. And it will lie and lie some more just to try to manipulate you. And you just forget about that. Don't you believe a word or a thought that is given to you telepathically. The only reason it's being able to communicate you telepathically is because your Kundalini has awakened. So no, there is not a scenario where a possession is a good thing in any way, shape, or form. Next question.
Oh, okay, Chrism, thank you. And this next one is an awareness of past lives or even aspects of a past life important or not in this current life?
Well, let's just say if you developed a blockage through the death in the last life, so for let's say somebody drowns, right, and so now they're in this life, they're in the next life, and they are deathly afraid of water. Well, that water fear can block them in this life, and so to have that awareness of that they need no longer be afraid of water is that can be a great benefit to an individual. For the most part, though, no, you are not allowed to remember past lives, and you're not allowed to remember them for the sake of the purity of your response to current life karma. And it's important for you to understand that that's why you don't get to have memory of a past life. It's because of the purity of your response to the karma that you're meeting in this life. And if you have information from a past life, well, then you have information about what that karma was and why that karma was, and you're going to try to manipulate that without a level of purity that not having that memory would give you. And so it's very important for people. They all want to go into the past life. Oh my gosh, I want to know, was I Cleopatra? Was I Solomon? Was I John Wayne? Was that who I was? Nobody wants to be a ditch digger in the past life, right? So this is all really more about the ego than anything else, and certain levels of ego aggrandizement. But if a person drowned or a person had some sort of a traumatic ending that ended up as a blockage in this life, well then yes, that can be helpful. But for the most part, people are not allowed to know their past lives, and these are for very, very good reasons. And for the most part, it's for the meeting of the karma that the person is meeting in this life, rather than knowing the answer beforehand. We get to meet our karma with honesty and with integrity, and that is really only given through a lack of memory. You don't know who you were or what you did, and that allows you to meet your karma honestly on this plane at this time in this life. Next question.
Mm-hmm. And that was the last one, Chrism. That's actually, thank you for that answer. That was my very last question. I didn't get so many this week.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's all good. I want to.
I'm going to give out. to give out that address again, though, Chrism, if I may. If people would like to make a donation, it's www.chrism-kundalini.blogspot.com.
Thank you, Amelia. And I'm going to go ahead and put you in the blue here, just for a little bit here. And the information given on this program comes straight from the Kundalini. I don't really have almost everything I say, in a very strange way, comes from the Kundalini now. The blending is so complete, and even more so now after the ayahuasca. That this connection is extremely expanded now. Some things are not for the general populations to know, only because they don't have the ability to understand what is being said. And it's very true, as the Bible says, don't cast your pearls before swine. And that's kind of a judgmental way of saying, don't give people information that they don't understand. Okay, for those of you that have the Kundalini, this information has a level of understanding for you. Go with that understanding. Trust your Kundalini. I think this is really what this program is all about. It is surrendering to the Kundalini and trusting the Kundalini to handle you with care, handle you with grace, handle you with love, and with the love of a parent. The love of an older sibling, somebody who cares about you, somebody who's guiding you and is taking you into ever-expanding levels of grace. This is what the show is about. This is what the Spectrum teachings are all about. And as Laranya said through Elizabeth, this is what the Kundalini wants you to do. You need to look into those shadow areas. You need to open those closets. You need to get under that bed and clean that out. And as you do that, you open yourself to greater levels of divine intuition, divine understanding, divine grace. This is what is very, very important for you to have at this time. You need to understand this. You don't want to hide from this. You don't want to hide from the difficulties. You want to embrace them. And as you embrace them, they have less control over your life. Now I'm going to bring Centaura back. Centaura, do you have any last words for this program?
I suppose I would just like to say what a privilege it was to be in Peru with everybody. Everybody was amazing. Our most senior member is such a beautiful, gentle woman, and yet so very, very strong. She was a great example and a wonder to be around, as was indeed Rosemary, whom I shared a room with in the ashram afterwards, and Elizabeth, whom I shared a room with in Peru. And I just want to say thank you to everybody, because it was just an amazing experience. And thank you to George or Jorge, and thank you, Chrism, for organising the trip and for bringing us down there, and for all that has opened in my life and in my process since. I am so thankful for it. So thank you. That's all.
You're very welcome, and I too would like to thank Elizabeth and you, Centaura, and Joey and Rosemary and all the people here, Elizabeth Dalton Gonzalez, Lana Seeker, and Manisha, and Mary Jean, and everybody in the groups. We'll probably be going back down to Peru again, perhaps in early August 2016. So if people have an interest, please contact me. You can contact me at K as in Kundalini, FIREFORALL, K Fire for All, at yahoo.com, and you can reach me at Chris Mitchell on Facebook, and otherwise known as Chrism Kundalini on Facebook. And my page is open to the public, but in case it's for some reason you can't, maybe I blocked you. If you need to get a hold of me, you can reach me on Kundalini Awakening ! Facebook, Kundalini Awakening Systems 2 Facebook, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3 Facebook, Kundalini People Facebook, Kundalini Healing Facebook, and Yahoo groups, Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 on the Google groups there, trying to remember what that's called. Feel free to contact me about your Kundalini Awakening situation. And you can also find me on about 337 videos about the Kundalini, strictly about the Kundalini, on the YouTube video network. So feel free, and that the keywords there would be Chrism Kundalini, and then that will lead you to all of the videos, and these are all free, and so are all of you, all free, if you'll just reach out and make it so. Thank you for joining us. And yes, Centaura?
No, I'm smiling. That's so true. Thank you. We are free when we reach out, when we trust, when we surrender. Thank you.
And indeed, and I'd like to say goodbye to everybody here. I'd like to say thank you to John and Amelia for having this program, and blessings to all of you. I will end this show the way I begin it each time, and here we are. Goodbye, everyone.